The Kitchen Wizz Pro by Sage, or Breville in some parts of the world, is a fantastic food processor. With a powerful motor and a clutch of accessories, it is ready to tackle loads of different kitchen tasks. I've been using mine for over a decade, and I always have it by my side when it comes to slicing things, grating things. If there's any little job I need help for, I reach for this little processor over and over again. This is not a sponsored post in any way. I've just used this gadget for a long time, and I use it in all different sorts of ways. If you've just got one, or if you've had one for a while, I'm going to take you through some of the tips and tricks I've found for getting the most out of your Kitchen Wizz Pro. Here are some things that are less obvious, worth knowing, or just can encourage you to think about using it in slightly different ways. By the way, many of these tips work with other food processors, not just the Sage one, so keep watching just in case your food processor can get away with a similar job. Tip number 1, perfect timing. Using a food processor to whisk cream is a great time and wrist saver. It's not a difficult job, obviously. I often palm it off on someone else who's standing around in the kitchen looking, but stick it in the Kitchen Wizz and it'll whip it up in no time. However, the window between whisk cream and butter is small when you're doing it mechanically. When you're busy with a few jobs at once, this can happen while your back is turned. Save yourself this nightmare by setting the timer function. Press the arrow buttons at the front to the appropriate time and the machine will stop by itself. It will take a little trial and error, but you'll appreciate not over whipping it. And you can count up or down.
But if you did want to take it further, did you know you can make butter in your Kitchen Wizz Pro? Tip number 2, let's make some butter.
Did you know you can make butter in the Kitchen Wizz Pro? Whack in the emulsifying disc and whiz up about a pint of double cream. Don't set the timer, but wait about 3 minutes. But let it go. Listen for the chunk, chunk, chunk. Suddenly, it'll go solid and there'll be a load of wet stuff in the bowl. This will take about a minute to 90 seconds, depending on how cold your cream is. Add a splash of ice cold water to your butter to help wash off that buttermilk. That wet stuff that's falling off, that's buttermilk, as in buttermilk fried chicken. It also makes splendid scones.
Would you like a scone? I don't mind if I do.
But the solid that's left behind is smooth, rich butter. If you like, add coarse sea salt and maybe some herbs for some delicious homemade butter, perfect for toast. Tip number 3, there's 2 ways to feed stuff into the chute. The wide chute isn't just for large items like potatoes and swede. It gives you variety in the way you want to slice. For example, take this courgette, pop it in this way. You can feed it down there and you get wide lengthways slices, really good for a layered bake dish like a moussaka. However, feed it down the main tube and you get perfect rounds, great for ratatouille, stir fry or salad. Speaking of slicing,
Tip number 4, use it like a deli slicer. That is, to slice up meat as you need it using the adjustable slicing blade.
I wasn't sure you could slice meat effectively in the Kitchen Wizz Pro, but thanks to a comment on one of my YouTube videos earlier in the year, this made me curious, so I made a video trying it out. Turns out the Kitchen Wizz Pro can slice cooked meat no problem at all. Salami gets sliced, ham gets ripped through. Using the adjustable slicing blade, you can pick your thickness with precision. Chorizo, beef, meat, ham, pork, go for it. Oh, and look, here was another question from a viewer. Can you slice frozen beef? It's perfectly happy dealing with frozen meat too, though I don't know that the manufacturer recommends it, so take that one with a pinch of salt. Tip number 5, painless pastry making. I have the hottest hands on earth. Rubbing in butter and flour for pastry is very difficult for me. That's where I turn to my faithful gadget to do the job for me. Stick in the quad slicer blade and it's perfect. Dump in the ingredients and pulse until it becomes like breadcrumbs. Perfect. Now if you want, you could add your liquid, your egg or water or milk to carry on making the rest of the pastry in this bowl. Hey, that's a good idea.
Make stuff straight in the bowl.
Some recipes work great, but end up with a lot of washing up, and having to wash this up between bit jobs you're doing is a bit of a pain. Mixing bowls, spoons, and plus the food processor itself with the blade, etc. Try and rethink your workflow and see if you can't do more in the food processor. Here's an example, some coleslaw. Take some egg yolks, mustard, salt, pepper, and pulse. Trickle in 250 ml of oil slowly, and I mean trickle, a few drops at a time to get started. This will take between 20 and 40 seconds depending on what mood your eggs are in. Add in lemon juice to taste and your mayo is ready. Switch to the shredding blade or grating blade. Push through cabbage, carrot and onion. I tend to use a 3-2-1 ratio for this, but you do the coleslaw you want to do. Rather than start a new bowl, the whole thing has been made in the one gadget. This minimises washing up. Jamie Oliver's a huge fan of this. Many of his recipes involve reusing your food processor to avoid having to wash up in between. Tip number 7, dishwasher do's and don'ts. When it comes to cleanup, it's made much easier if you have a dishwasher. The whole thing can be chucked in the dishwasher, but there is one exception. The main hopper plunger thing. Water can get into the body of the unit. And this actually happened to me before, and Sage thankfully replaced it for me. But generally speaking, this is a sealed unit. So wash this bit by hand. Some users say in reviews that when they wash this section, water gets into the handle. That's never happened with me, and in fact, there's a hole on the bottom of mine so that any excess liquid can drain out. So that's just what some reviews say, but you'll have to look into that yourself. Tip number 8, guarding the blades, dishwasher safety. There's a little more frightening in the world than that blade there. It is wicked sharp, and again, if you look at reviews, you'll see people that have had unfortunate accidents. It is proper sharp, and I'm super careful whenever I'm using it. I'm really worried about when I put it for a wash as well, and I could end up putting my fingers near the blade. This can go in the dishwasher, but obviously in the dishwasher things can jumble about, so I recommend popping it back in the holder before washing. That thing stays contained, and there's plenty of drainage, so everything gets slushed around and runs out the bottom. So that's how you keep your quad blade clean.
And now over to you. Let me know in the comments about interesting ways you use your food processor that might not be particularly in the manual. I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please hit the like button, and that will tell YouTube that this video is worth watching and send it to other people interested in this sort of thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.